Alright guys, it is finally time. We get to take a close look at the Metallic Aero, a paddle that I've been really enjoying for the last month. I'm going to talk about kind of the pros and cons of the Metallic Aero, what I like about it, what I think can use improvements, and also give you guys some comparisons on some other paddles that you might be familiar with. First, really quickly, I'll run over some details on the text and specs of the paddle. The Metallic is part of Holbrook's new Aero series that consists of a variety of edgeless paddles that features different surfaces and shapes. It's priced at $220, but with code EDGU, that'll knock off 15% and bring the price down to $189. It has a handle length of 5.5 inches, which is great for two-handed backhand users, and a grip circumference of 4.25 inches. The stock weight is 8 ounces and it has a swing weight of 112. It currently only comes in 16mm thickness, which is better for control, but I have heard that they are also coming out with a 14mm, which would be very interesting with this paddle. And last but not least, the surface material is metallic polycarbon fiber weave, which is probably the greatest feeling on a paddle I've ever felt. The amount of spin you can get with this paddle is just absolutely insane.
I'm gonna get a paper cut
So
off.
gritty. Ow, my fingers. What the? Wait, give me that back. Oh, 54. That's going outside the court, like outside the side of the court. That is absolutely ridiculous. All right, so one of the things I want to talk about that you guys are probably thinking of is the grit. Now, this grit, when you first get it, it is extremely gritty out of the box. I don't know if it's because of the metallic poly, but this grit spins the ball like none other. And especially if you're going for like big serves or big drives, it feels really good for those. However, the big question is, how long does the grit last? So I actually have a little comparison of a paddle that I've been using for about a month versus a brand new paddle. And long story short is, kind of as expected, grit doesn't last forever. There is some wear. So for this one, especially near the sweet spot of the paddle, it's not as gritty as like the fresh paddle anymore. However, after a month, compared to other paddles I've tried, this one actually has lasted a little bit longer, probably because the initial grit was that much more. But just to kind of like a little bit of a comparison, if you can kind of hear it, this is the new one, extremely gritty. You could kind of hear that coarseness. And then the used one, 1 month, it's just a little bit easier to run your fingers across it. And you definitely notice that when you're going for like really spinny shots, it doesn't catch on as much as the brand new one. However, I would still say that this paddle still gets more spin than most paddles I've tried. So if I cut this open, and we just kind of took like a section here, I might do that in the future so you guys could see, you would see foam all around the perimeter of the paddle. That's the foam injection that they use in thermoform paddles. But you'll also see something that they did with these paddles, and that's they put actually weights on each of the corners. And what that does is it increases the sweet spot. Essentially, they've added lead tape, which we do to help increase the sweet spot and stability of the paddle. But they actually did that internally. And I think that's pretty cool because I feel like this paddle, compared to most edgeless paddles, it has more stability right out of the box. I do end up putting a little bit more just to give a little bit more stability and power to my paddle on the 3 and 9 o'clock. But I think it's pretty cool that they actually added that internally. All right, so let's get into the meat and bones. I would classify this paddle as a kind of a hybrid paddle. It's not necessarily a full power paddle, but it's also not a control paddle either. It's kind of right in between both. The comparison that I would make, it being an edgeless paddle, I would actually think about like the Lux paddle that I used to like a lot. The Lux paddle was phenomenal for control. However, it lacked power. This one kind of feels like a souped up Lux, where it has really good touch and control, but the power is so much better. So I would say it's like, if you enjoy the Lux or you enjoy like control paddles that feel easy to control and have nice touch to it, but you want more power and more spin, this is kind of what it feels like. It's just all around a more aggressive paddle. And I think with pickleball kind of evolving, where most pros you'll even see their third shot driving, fifth shot drop, or maybe even third shot drive into shake and bake. Drives are becoming more and more important. So I think this paddle is more suitable for modern day pickleball players, where you do want something that you can have a little bit more dip to your ball. You can really carve and shape the ball. This paddle gives way more of that edge compared to a full control paddle. But at the same time, you don't really suffer from a lack of control. For example, sometimes the one paddle that comes to mind is the gearbox paddles. For example, these are also edgeless paddles. These ones have phenomenal power, but it's almost too poppy where if someone is serving really big at you, it could be a little bit hard sometimes to get the return back inside the court. So just a really quick demonstration on the deflection of the paddle and the poppiness of the paddle. This is the Metallic Aero. So even as you're just kind of testing it out and feeling how it comes off of the paddle, it feels pretty stable. Like it has a really nice full sound, and the sweet spot is pretty big. Like you could hit like almost like all the way over here on the paddle, whereas most edgeless paddles, I feel like the sweet spot's really quite small. Now if you take a look at the gearbox, even as I'm just like kind of bouncing this up and down, I can feel and I can see that ball just kind of springing off that paddle quite a bit, which if someone's hitting really hard at you, that might be an issue to be able to absorb that and slow it down. So that's just kind of a pros and cons. Is this paddle isn't going to have as much power as like those really poppy Gen 3 paddles, gearbox mod, but this paddle has manageable power that you could really shape the ball with the grit and spin that it imparts. If I had to summarize this paddle into a couple of phrases, it would be manageable power, insane spin, and decent control. You know, you can't have everything, but if you're looking for something that is going to be able to help you spin the ball like crazy and have awesome power, but also be able to have resets still and have a soft game, this paddle is definitely it. As of now, I think this paddle is still sold out. This paddle has been sold out for the last like month or something. They are doing pre-orders right now. I'll put all the links down in the description below, but go check this paddle out. You won't regret it. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you guys on the next one.